self-supremacy. But now, the host. The host of the CredeCast. The supremacy is now before you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition of the CredeCast. This is your host, the Reverend of the Ring, the self-supremacy, the one and only Everett Creed. And tonight is a very special night for me because joining me is the man that I have first fought on the outside exterior borders of the UWE, a man that I am proud to say was my first ever opponent in a crossover match situation, and it took place at Best in the Yard. My guest at this time is none other than the only man that has been able to thunderstop my head in between a steel chair, may I add. Tyler Storm.
It's a pleasure to be on the CredeCast tonight.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on here. I mean, first off, I just want to obviously say thank you because, on a personal note, because going into the beginning of the UWE on YouTube and then going into 2015, I really never had much interest into the Creed character. I was always trying to plug other individuals. As far as my personal interest, I was always interested in Lips, and I really wanted to see that character succeed. And I feel like Creed was something of the past, even though none of you guys got to see it. And then one day I got the notification from you saying that I want to face you at Best in the Yard and I want us to penultimate. So right then and there, I realized that I had to give these guys the real self-supremacy. So for that, I do thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, we got a couple viewers here. We got Aaron Jones and Zach Daniels. And it's safe to say that, you know, the VTW, there you go, as a matter of fact, some of the VTW originals. Tyler, I know that you haven't really spoken much about everything that took place at Fury, but I do want to get some of your thoughts on the matter of current VTW product, because how long do you think JHI is going to have 50% of the company? Do you think it's going to be forever, or do you think somehow in some way you guys are going to be able to work it out?
Well, I can tell you that it's not going to be forever. This is just temporary. A lot of, the mainstays in VTW, the guys who's been here the longest, like myself, Zach, Aaron, Avery, Ecstatic, those guys that's been here since almost day one. I have a feeling that eventually we're going to rise up and take down JHI, but as everybody knows, as of right now, JHI is literally taking over the company. They have every championship after Roulette. And they're just 4 new guys that's came in here. Not a lot of them have been talked about since, Diablo kind of started to get his name out around March of last year. Joe, Joe was literally a jobber all the way up until, the JHI takeover. And Dustin was a new recruit, that came in, made his name. And D-Lock is, I have to give some props to D-Lock. What can I say about him? He's
very athletic.
He's rose to the ranks faster than anybody I've ever seen come in this company before. So I have to applaud D-Lock for that.
Now I will say, actually, Tyler, just mute your mic real quick and then just unmute it because you got a little bit of echo. All right, let's see here. Okay, we're good. Now, well, let's first talk about Best in the Yard, because that was really one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on here, because there's a lot of backstage talk, and there's a lot of stuff that I always wanted to share, but obviously couldn't do when we were in the genesis of the rivalry. Wouldn't really make sense. But now that it's all passed, what made you decide, okay, what made you come up with the idea of Best in the Yard? Because it obviously was being held at VTW. What just made you think, let's do it?
Well, I mean, I'm not the mastermind behind Best in the Yard, because everybody that was involved, in Best in the Yard was the mastermind behind it. But I know I sat down with the VTW guys one night, and I was just like, what if, because this was whenever we were first getting introduced to, every big company, and, back then it was like HBTW, it was still the UWE, and those were the two main people who we were like, yeah, definitely want to do something with them. Because I know I watched Drew, and this was back whenever Drew was in CCW, and Drew went to HBTW and wrestled Jason Walker, and as soon as I seen that, I was like, all right, Drew is definitely committed if he's going to drive that far to go, backyard wrestle. And I was like, what if, we could get all the top companies in one place at the same time to create like this backyard wrestling WrestleMania, basically. And I mean, I do think Best in the Yard really, really took off, and I really hope it's around for, a couple more years. I can basically promise you that I'll be at the next couple if we do have the next couple. Because, I mean, Best in the Yard, one was an experience like no other. The memories that was from that weekend, and just from the match that I had with you, Everett, that's something that will live on forever, even after backyard wrestling. So,
absolutely. What made you decide? Because Drew made up a great comment saying that Storm versus Creative Best in the Yard was the breakout match for both of us characters. I think Best in the Yard was honestly a breakout match for everybody. It was just a breakout show for all these companies, because this was the introduction of seeing, if you're a UWE following, this is the first time you're seeing APW and VTW, and if you're a VTW follower and APW follower seeing the other shows, it really was a breakout show for everybody. But what made you decide that, all right, everybody's going to have who they want to face? What made you decide you want to face who you ended up facing, myself, Everett Creed? What made you decide that?
I looked at, the rosters to both APW and UWE. And, of course, we had one superstar from CCW. Was there anybody else that was there?
There was one guy from KBW, Big Time Mike.
Yeah, Big Time Mike. But I was looking at the rosters of mainly, APW and the UWE, and I was like, all right, I don't want to go off on a limb and, just choose somebody random. So I looked into it. I watched a lot of past APW and UWE, and I was like, and then there was one guy that caught my eye, and I'm like, that's the guy who I want to face at Best in the Yard. So I think that's whenever I sent you that message, and I was like, okay, I know there's been talks about this whole big, crossover event happening. What do you say that, me and you throw down at Best in the Yard?
Yeah. And then I looked at your stuff, and I thought, yeah, that's going to be a yes. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, this Key to Creed promo appears, and this whole thing, and I'm just like, I'm looking at this, and I see this emergency broadcast, and I'm like, what the F is this guy doing? And he just comes up with this key to Best in the Yard, and I'm thinking, oh, this guy really wants it, doesn't he? I haven't seen anybody call me out like that, so I'm like, all right, you want it, it's on. And then all of a sudden, the back and forth began, and I had the one promo where I had the half mask in the middle of the night, and then I turned around and said, this is on you now. How did you feel about our build for Best in the Yard? Because I felt like it was definitely different.
I think it was the most unique. I know some people has told me that, ours was, very comparable to the Triple Threat and Big Time Mike and Drew Hood. I do say that ours took a little darker tone, the most dark out of any other match on Best in the Yard. But the build, I was sitting there thinking one night, I was like, okay, because I'm not the best, at starting something. I'm not the best, I'm not the best at, just starting a rivalry up from a promo. And so I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, okay, what can I do? And I had I think I had my keys in front of me, and I'm like, all right, it's starting to, you know, my gears are starting to grind a little bit. And so then I snap of a finger, I was like, key to Creed. And so I'm going to do it. And I actually sent it to the guys in my own Fed first. And I was like, yo guys, so watch this before I you know, make it public. And a lot of them was like, what the hell is this? Like that's literally what they thought. And so at first I was like, yep, I've failed at my promo at Best in the Yard. But I mean, I think it got over in a way that, you know, like nothing else got over. And so
originally I was going to try to, you know, because Creed before YouTube was pretty dark. I had a thing where I hacked the UW, and I'm like, I may try to out dark him, but then I realized I was the CEO of the UW, and I'm going to I realized, what if I try to make it to where it's the order, that's where Order versus Chaos started. And then I'm going to claim that everybody wants to be the dark character. Everybody wants to be the evil force that runs. And meanwhile, I'm all that is good. I'm not a villain. Everybody's saying this is villain versus villain. I'm not a villain. I'm a hero. And everything I've done is construction, not demolition. Meanwhile, I'm the most corrupt guy on the whole show because I'm just, you know, I claim to hate hypocrites. Meanwhile, I'm the biggest hypocrite on the whole damn thing. And I feel like that's where people started rooting for you in a case because, you know, I know there were some people like some Creed fans, but I'm like, I want to make it to where I could see there was going to be a turn eventually with the Tyler Storm character. Not immediately, but eventually. And all of a sudden, I did that video with the ESPN documentary thing where I'm talking like I'm on an interview, and that was one of my favorite promos I've ever done. Definitely. And then the next thing I know, I'm in the woods, and I do that promo in the woods. And the next thing I know, I'm in a car ride, and I'm on my way to face you. And it was really cool. And then the promo package I made where you were saying, like, you were saying, like, you know, what do you got to all, you know, all you've been thinking about is the UWE. All you've been thinking about is you know, your relationship with Ange. And, oh, my God, she nearly killed me when she saw that. That was, oh, man. I had a bite mark for or no, not even a bite mark. That's more like, I think she like she beat the shit out of me. I'm like, but he said it, like, you know, like, anyway, but that was one of my favorite builds that one of my best feuds that I've ever had. But once you saw the old Shirley pop into that Burger King, what was going through your mind? I believe it was Ecstatic and Aaron Jones. What was going through your guys' heads when you saw that car pull up?
Well, I mean, I've had a similar experience, you know, with CCW coming in, and, you know, so I mean, I'm used to the, you know, meeting new people and stuff like that, but just like for the whole Best in the Yard experience, I was just like, okay, let's put it this way. I didn't think Best in the Yard was going to happen until I was actually standing face to face with you in the Burger King parking lot, because I know I shook Cam, I shook and hugged Cam, Corey, Antonio, and the last person I met was you, and so that's whenever I knew I was like, all right, this is going to be good, and this is going to be, you know, the biggest show of the year, no matter what anybody says. And, you know, I mean, I know we had a lot of, you know, competition that tried to, you know, come up and run over Best in the Yard, but as you can
work. And the reason that is because even though we are exterior promotions, we look for the best in one another, you know, where maybe those guys were looking for the best within themselves. I don't know. That's just maybe how it is. Good question now from Avery Hoke. Tyler, what is your favorite 3 matches you have been in since you've been doing BYW wrestling? But then Aaron also says, what are your favorite, your top 3 VTW matches? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Aaron's question first with your top 3 VTW matches. And then I want to also get your top 3 BYW matches as well, as far as like crossover maybe.
Okay. All right. So singular VTW stuff. First off, I have to say the Mania triple threat match against Ecstatic and Zach Daniels for the world title. Of course, I was unsuccessful in that match. Zach Daniels walked away with the title. It was well deserved. But that's a match that, at the time, people was like, should Aaron and Drew, be the main event? Should, this match be the main event? Because each of them had great build to them. And so, and the match with Drew and Aaron was very, very hard to compete with. Let me tell you something. It was very hard to compete with. One of my second favorite matches would have to be the 3 Stages of Hell match I had with Aaron Jones for the YouTube title at Day of Gold. That's actually the day I won the YouTube championship. And then we had the double turn at the end. Even though that match was just like a 20-minute match, I do think that was a fantastic. It set the pace. There's a little story behind the match. So me and Aaron went out there and we originally started the match, and we got about 8 minutes in, and literally it was so many botches, so many mess ups. It just wasn't me and Aaron's night at that point. And so literally I looked at the cameraman. I was like, stop the camera and let's restart this, because I know I know me and Aaron can do a lot better than this. And so we went back. Me and Aaron's adrenaline was kind of going a little bit, but after that we went out there and it was a fast-paced match, very stiff match. I actually slammed my head up against the ground during that match because I was going so hard. But that'd probably have to be my second favorite. And what would be my last VTW? Oh, it's actually one that happened this year. The Fury 8-man. I think that was probably one of the most storytelling matches so far in VTW, just with the whole JHI angle and, just with, the 4 original VTW guys in there with the 4 new VTW guys. And it was an honor to, be the last guy for VTW, even though I was unsuccessful. To be up in there with Joe Cool, Diablo, D-Lock, and Dustin Plague, it was pretty fun to be up in there at that point.
Absolutely. Now I'm not going to give you a top 3, but I will say if there are any how many if there's any other as far as facing someone outside of VTW. I know you mentioned myself at Best in the Yard, and that was a definitely one of my favorite matches that I've ever done, period. Is there any other crossover matches where other than versus Evercreed at Best in the Yard that really stood out in its own way?
Well, I do have to say the thing that I did at Carolina Clash against Seth Maverick, that was different because that was my first match outside of the borders of VTW. And so
yeah, that was your first time playing for the away team, as I like to say it. So that's very interesting indeed.
And so, I'll always hold that. I'll always hold, Seth as being my first ever outside of, VTW opponent. Another, I have another 3, but this is basically all of them because, all of them just, stuck with me. The match against Big Time Mike at Halloween Hangover, as soon as I got up in that ring, and as soon as I stared across the ring at Big Time Mike, I was like, I am going to get my ass handed to me. And as soon as that bell rung, I literally think I shit my pants whenever the bell rung. So I just ran at Mike as hard as I could, need him. And then, I started hitting him, and he came on top of me. I was like, I'm fucking dead. It was nuts.
Yeah.
And then, my turbulence match against Dirty DeChico,
not many people could say. I don't think any man other than yourself can say they have survived versus Big Time Mike and Dirty DeChico in 2 different one-on-one matches. Those are probably the 2 heaviest hitters you could probably imagine. God help the man that ever goes through that. So I'm very amazed on how you were able to survive, much less defeat both Big Time Mike and Dirty DeChico.
Yeah.
And then obviously I know you and Cam had some wars as well on Vindication and Christmas Chaos, which I thought was very enjoyable as well.
Definitely. I loved working with all three of them, Mike, DeChico, and Cam. Little known fact, all three of them matches were filmed in the same weekend. So, and do you think I should tell them the story about the original?
Well, reunion. We'll talk about reunion in a little bit. Let's go back to Best in the Yard real quick. Because obviously there was some real emotions. There was just everything was just clicking in. Everything was just perfect in the mo. And I'm actually looking for a photograph from Best in the Yard that really I think was a perfect storyteller. I'm going through my photos on my computer right now, but I remember being in gorilla position, and I remember just having this amazing stare down, and it was just indescribable because it's like, we've had our fun watching everybody else perform, but now it's time to let them know that, this match is on. Creed versus Storm for the next 20 minutes. This is ours. So I really enjoyed being a part of that. But then right away, within the snap of a finger, we went from being honored to face one another to let's just, beat the holy hell out of one another. So what was your thoughts just coming out at Best in the Yard?
Coming out at Best in the Yard, I mean, I really didn't, because see, I came out first at Best in the Yard, which I wanted to come out first at Best in the Yard. But I went and I came out, and it was nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, of course there was new faces sitting out in the crowd, but I went and I got up in the ring, and I'm just standing there, and as soon as I heard the night start playing, I was like, oh boy, this is actually for real. And then seeing somebody that you've only seen wrestle on the internet, and then seeing them in person walking out of the stage or whatever, that was absolutely unbelievable. Like if you watch the actual version on UWE where the cameraman is walking out with you, you can see me up in the ring, and I'm just I'm sitting there getting warmed up and stuff. Never do I stop moving around or anything like that because I'm just getting so hyped seeing.
Yeah.
But
one of the few times where I decided I wanted to come out second because I was like, I want to see, I want the opponent to see me, I want to see the impact. And I remember I was like, I want to do something different, and I told, oh my God, hang on once. I'm sorry. I got to tell my dog to shut up real quick. Okay. Anyway, I was in the back and I'm like, cameraman, get me a gorilla, just, sipping a water bottle, get me all pumped up. And about 2 minutes before that, we shot this picture here, and one of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken. Because lately I've been doing a lot of shots at gorilla position for these crossover matches and anything quite like it. And I remember coming out there, and we had the beginning idea where, you wanted to call me out. And I smacked you in the face. You gave me a couple of shots, and then I got outside the ring. And one of my favorite parts of the match was playing the cat and mouse. You come back in the ring, and I literally just I just stomp on your side. I hear the crowd getting started.
I swear that was the hardest I have ever been hit, stomped, anything before in my life. I was,
man.
But at the time, my adrenaline was going, so I didn't even feel it. But after going back and watching, the footage after, we filmed the match and stuff, it was crazy. Like the amount of stuff that me and you both took during that match, but literally we didn't even feel it because adrenaline was just snap, snap, snap.
Adrenaline was clicking. I normally don't pull out the stiffs, but I was just too in the mo, and I remember using the ropes for the first time. I'm just using it for and I playing the cat and mouse, and I trap you. And the best thing is I hear Big Time Mike in the crowd just saying, "Oh my God!" And I just cracked up about that. I'm like, classic Mike. And then obviously, you took the Fred and the Wilma. You took the Fred with the leg, and then everybody was like, "That's the Wilma, that's the one," and you just get the shoulder in. Vicious. But it was just a lot of cool spots. And then obviously, I got smacked in the face by one of your personal fans, and then you came in and did the what do you call it, the camel clutch, because Iron Sheik was one of like the biggest talks on that whole crossover show. I feel like every crossover show we talk about a different wrestler, and that wrestler gets over every time.
Definitely.
Like Best in the Yard, we were talking about, let's see, I mean, Iron Sheik, and then for when it comes up, WrestleCon was Flair. I heard Cornette was that Halloween hangover weekend. Dusty Rhodes was the reunion weekend. So it's like always, and it's always an old timer too, which is the best part. That's why I get scared about who's going to be Best in the Yard too. It's probably going to be like someone completely out of the ordinary.
Watch it be like Kerwin White. Jesus Christ.
Oh man, but I definitely enjoyed a lot of that, and the Genesis device, one of the few I actually got it in perfect. But then the next thing I know, I get a trash can to the face, a kick to the side of the head, and you're putting my head in a steel chair, and I'm like, okay, this is the finish, and I'm like, I'm not gonna move, I'm not gonna budge, I'm just, I'm praying to God and my loved ones. If I don't make it, I don't make it. And clunk, and I'm like, all right, and I feel myself, I'm like, all right, I'm good, but I'm laying down. And that was one of my favorite matches that I've ever done. I will say that. One of my favorites. Now, if anyone else has any questions as far as this CredeCast, I know Zach Daniels asked favorite BYW competitor right now. That's pretty broad, but if you had one that really right now is caught your eye, who would you say?
I'm actually starting. Well, I'm not starting, but I have been a huge fan of your WrestleCon opponent, Shavarticus Jackson. I don't know what I don't know what it is about him, but he just, in especially in APW, since that's his home turf, literally just caught my eye, and I literally don't know why, but whatever Shavar's doing, keep my eye, just keep on doing it.
The thing about Shavar is that he's definitely unique. He's definitely a standout player. Sometimes he can run his mouth a little bit. Sometimes that can get him into situations that he's going to regret, like WrestleCon. But the thing about Shavarticus is that I chose to face Shavarticus for one reason and one reason only. And that is because I'm going to be the guy that shuts him up, and I'm going to be the guy that humbles him, but eventually that's what's going to make him better and stand out in APW. So that's how I feel about Shavarticus Jackson. But now let me just see if there's any more questions real quick. Hashtag Aaron. Aaron says hashtag Barney, by the way. Now, this is a good question here from we got a couple of good ones. We got one from Ecstatic and we got one from Drew. Let's start with Drew's question first because it did come up first. 3 opponents that you'd like to face in the near future.
Well, see, this is kind of, a hard question for me, considering that, a lot of my, dream matches or, matches that I'd like to have has already happened before, like
What would you like at round 2? Oh, what? No, did he say never have fought before? 3 opponents you'd like to face in the near future. He never said anything about a round 2. So I guess if you want, maybe 2 could be like round 2s, but then like if there's anybody that you haven't fought yet.
I'll try to think of 3 people that I've never faced before. Definitely one of them just clicked in my mind. The Disaster, Chase Bridges. I would love to step in the ring with the Disaster one day. I had a little, encounter with him in the Reunion Rumble, but it wasn't a lot.
Not the only person you're with.
What?
That was you got the Mo, and then the next thing, the night hits, and we just have this stare down, like here we go again in the same yard, and that was another cool moment too. I'd like to see you and Chase though. That would be awesome.
Number 2 would definitely have to be either, and I'm going to kind of add both of these. to my number 2, either Ellis Taylor or Cyrus X. I would love to step up in the ring with either one of them or just one of them.
They're definitely interesting. Hard hitters, definitely, worthy. I've defeated them both, but that's once again, they are a very dominant tag team, no doubt about that. And who would be the third?
My number 3 would, I mean, you probably smelt this one coming, would have to be none other than Mr. Cinema himself, Jason Walker.
And that leads me to Ecstatic's question, your thoughts on Jason Walker.
My thoughts on Jason Walker. Well, let's see. Number 1, let's see if he can get the job done at WrestleCon. Yes, he's been on a big streak as of right now, as far as crossovers are concerned, but all of that can come to a screeching halt. And Cam can be the one who shuts him up at WrestleCon. But my thoughts on Jason Walker is basically I see a lot of myself in Jason Walker. And Jason Walker has stated in his video that he made almost a year ago that he sees a lot of himself in me. So what about we mesh them two styles together at one point and we have us a little dream match, Tyler Storm versus Jason Walker. And that's basically, my thoughts on Jason Walker. And I mean, I would, I don't have a lot of harsh words at the moment to say for Jason Walker, but, it's getting around best in the yard season and, the call outs are coming every which way, so I'm going to make sure I'm the first person to knock on Jason Walker's door to best in the yard.
Now, oh boy, the comments are flying. First thing is, obviously Jason Walker is a very formidable opponent. He's defeated the best he's beaten Drew Hood, he's beaten Daisy, he's beaten Lips as far as the crossovers go. But Cameron Jackson is just a whole different challenge. And just like I've told Corey at Best in the Yard, Cameron Jackson is someone that you don't take lightly. And Corey learned that the hard way. Drew said, Zach Daniels says, what are you going to do to make Walker accept your challenge? Now, are you still looking to face Jason Walker on the Showcase Immortals?
I mean, of course, I'm wanting to, but I'm not going to beg for it. And that's just, I've never been one to beg for something. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so that's, where I, kind of just draw the line a little bit. And basically, in my upcoming stuff, if I can prove to you that I am worthy of facing at Best in the Yard, then drive the 8 hours down here and let's face off at Best in the Yard. But if not, I'll look the other way and I'll find me somebody else. So
Now, Drew brings up an interesting point. He says, first, a funny little comment. Should have had a girlfriend, he'd probably burn her picture. Then again, you'd probably be out to dinner and not be able to see it. But now, this is where it gets interesting. He says, but seriously, Walker's on a whole other level of mind games. And I will say I partially agree, but partially disagree, because Walker does have a way with the mind games. But based on the 2 latest crossover rivalries that he has been on the receiving end of those mind games. And the first one was at Retro Invasion against Lips, and Lips claimed to be this man in red and would try to one-up Jason Walker with incinerating his pictures and really trying to have his way with him. And then Cameron, with the Black Toad Splash shirt, has been literally like a dog peeing all over the place, marking his territory. And that's what Cams reminds me of. He reminds me of that arrogant, that dog that is lifting his leg and marking his territory on every single proportion of Jason Walker property. So I feel that the mind games are starting to get played on Jason Walker. The question is Walker going to return the favor and is going to manhandle Cam at WrestleCon? That's, all to be determined.
Yep.
But speaking of lips, that comes to reunion.
Okay.
Now, wow. Now you've had the storm calling for quite some time, and what made you think of the storm calling, by the way? How did that all come about?
What do you want, like the real reason why it came up?
Oh yeah, the genesis of the storm calling.
Okay. The real reason why it came up, I was sitting down in the basement one day. Anybody who's ever been to VTW knows what the basement is.
Boy.
I was just sitting down there one day, and I was thinking of ideas, because we were at a point in storylines where the world champion had everything. The world champion had everything coming out. The YouTube champion was just kind of bleh. It was just kind of out there.
Okay.
And so I was just thinking, I was like, if we want to, increase the quote unquote ratings of, the shows and make our pay-per-views and stuff worthwhile, I was like, what about we get some of these top names from, UWE, APW, we get them from anywhere, any and everywhere, have some of the guys from Best in the Yard come down, have some new guys show up that wasn't at Best in the Yard, that's what I liked. And, the VTW guys were still eligible to compete in the storm callings, but, a lot of the most memorable storm callings was, Big Time Mike, Dirty DeChico, Cameron Jackson, Lips, the list goes on and on and on. But definitely, I think the storm callings, it ran its course, nobody really got, too tired of it. And as all of you guys know, I'm not the YouTube champion anymore. But I do think the storm callings were a good thing to shake things up a little bit in VTW.
I definitely think so, indeed. Avery Hoke asked the question, do you plan on facing Dustin Plague in a rematch for the VTW or now the JHI YouTube Championship?
Oh, trust me, I am not done with Dustin. You can expect a lot of me and Dustin coming up on Vindications, coming up on the next pay-per-view, Wicked Armageddon. You can expect a lot of me and Dustin.
Yeah, that's honestly, I mean, you guys had, I'll be admit, I mean, the match was a little bit lengthy, but you definitely saw a lot out of both of you guys, and that's what I will say. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of devotion, a lot of determination. That's the, that's what I like seeing out of Roulette. And obviously, you got the new look, you got the new T-shirt, new kick pads, definitely featuring a new look. I can only imagine what Best in the Yard is going to be like, but. Now back to reunion, you come out on a Vindication and, next storm calling, who's it going to be? And then what was going through your mind when you heard that infamous music?
Oh, no. Any other time that, I've been, brought to my attention who the storm calling was going to be, with Mike, it was, him interrupting the thing after my match, Cam was, on Vindication. Dirty DeChico was after I went for the save on Dirty. But, after, I came out, I asked for the storm calling, and Lips, of all people, came out there. I didn't know what to think at that point. There was a stalemate between Lips and myself at the beginning of that match, or before the match didn't even
start. That was even announced. It was on Vindication. You guys had that, I mean, since it's, you have that stare down with somebody quite like that. Mm-hmm. And, all of a sudden you turn around and he lays you out with the little death. How would you say, and not saying this because they're the same person, because they're not, how would you say Lips was different from Everett Creed at Best in the Yard?
Well,
tell me.
Definitely Lips, played more of the flamboyant role, if that's even a word I can put with, Lips. Definitely both of the matches were very, very different. and it felt like I was wrestling two different people just because of how different Everett Creed and Lips is from each other, and definitely they were both storytelling matches, and I loved both of them, but that Lips.
Yeah, definitely an oddball. Now, that match ended a little different from the others. I mean, it looked like Litz was setting up for the finish, went for a cover, and then you caught him with a roll up for a 3 count. It looked like you got your way out of that scenario. And we haven't really seen Lips in action since that match. So I'm wondering how it's going to be when Lips takes on Joe Cool at WrestleCon, but definitely one of the most unique performances I've seen you put on because of the fact that I honestly, it was just seeing you, Tyler Storm, who's usually kind of works the mind games pretty well, but now it's on a different level. It's like, oh, okay, like you had that meeting in the basement, and then the match goes on at Reunion, and I definitely liked it. I definitely, he was one of those guys that was freaky. He was wicked. And speaking of wicked, I mean, obviously some very devastating events have occurred yesterday, and I do want to bring that up. Unfortunately, the passing of a BYW legend, Wicked J from ESW, has passed on, and I was definitely mortified by the news. I saw it on Instagram through Cody Rex. I mean, I haven't been the biggest follower of ESW, but I have seen some product of Wicked J. I know he was a juggalo way before Fat Jack was even a name in UWE, but I just want to say that Wicked J will be missed and will be remembered as one of the best. And talking to the guy that really kind of runs the computer work with the UWE and the guy that runs the computer work with VTW, the next two big household names, the two big household events, Hell's Vacancy for the UWE and April Armageddon for VTW, will be in memory of Wicked J. I know actually April Armageddon has gone through a change. Tyler, you want to talk about that?
So all of the VTW guys, were shocked at the passing of Wicked J. Wicked J was one of the guys who first caught my eye whenever I started, watching other backyard wrestling companies back in like 09 and in 2010 and stuff like that. I was definitely shocked by the news whenever I'd seen it on Facebook. But we all came together and we all agreed that our next special event, April Armageddon, will be dedicated to Wicked J. And it's going to be renamed to Wicked Armageddon in honor of him. We will have a 10-bell salute and a tribute to Wicked J on the program as well. So, condolences to all of his friends and family, and, fly high Wicked J.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. I know Half and Half definitely talked about it quite a bit last night. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on Big Time Mike's channel. It was he was definitely an inspiration to many characters and definitely had an impact. Now, Tyler, we're gonna have some kind of turn it up a notch. We're gonna do some segments here. First one is gonna be one of CredeCast original. Make them tag or make them tap. I'm gonna name a superstar, and you're gonna decide if you want to team up with them. You're gonna make them tag. If you want to face the superstar, you're going to make them tap. Now, I know you don't have a submission, but this game was created when I had Mike and Rick on here, and Mike known for the BTA, Rick known for the TOP tag team. I named the game after those guys. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Your first individual in make them tag or make them tap is none other than KBW's Mick the Brick. Make them tag or make them tap.
I think tap.
You're gonna make him tap. All right. Well, why would you make Mick the Brick tap?
What can I really say about Mick the Brick? It's Mick the Brick. So
That was a brick. That was a brief. Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh man. Yeah. If you know what's sad? If he actually shows up now to an event, he'll be over because of that damn comment and that name. Oh goodness. But there's not really much else to say, but there, I'll give you that. All right. Next person, APW's Thomas Gray. Make him tag or make him tap.
No, I think I'll make him tag.
You gonna make him tag?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that you guys would be an interesting tag team, but why so?
I mean, whenever I see, Thomas Gray, I see a guy, who's going through a lot of struggles at the moment, in APW, and as everybody knows, I'm going through a lot of struggles in VTW at the moment. So, I think, if me and Thomas Gray could, get together and work together, maybe we can put aside some of them, differences that we have in our own individual companies.
I could definitely see that. All right. Let's see. Okay, this is interesting. VTW's Merrick, the holder of the VTW briefcase.
This is a tough one. I haven't seen a lot of him lately, but honestly, I might want to tag with him.
You're gonna tag with Merrick. That would be very interesting. Now, last time you were seen with Merrick, we had our little stare down, and I gave him a nightshade and got him out of the ring. That was quite interesting at reunion as well. Next one, none other than UWE's Adnan. Make him tag or make him tap.
Definitely tag.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're gonna try to make him tap, I'd say, well, oh my goodness, you'd be an idiot for Dave May trying to make him tap. So trust me, the smartest thing is to tag with Adnan. I'd know.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do two more. Next one is gonna be none other than UWE's Fearful Phenom Daisy.
I'll make him tap.
Tyler versus Daisy. Okay.
It's a match that nobody's seen before, and I mean, it sucks to see Daisy go, but that's actually one guy who brought a lot of charisma, to the yard and stuff like that. Like I said, it sucks to see him go. That's one guy who I wish I would have got the chance to get up in the ring with.
Yep. For those who hear it, I apologize for my annoying dog barking his head off. I think the REF5 was just pulled into Titan Towers. So I think that's why Nikki's going all crazy. And last but not least, and this one should be rather interesting, VTW's Slick Gibson. Make him tag or make him tap.
I actually had to kick him out of the house earlier. I'm not going to say.
So you kind of made him tap.
Yeah. I'd probably make Slick tap because that kid just needs to learn. That kid needs to learn some manners.
Oh boy. Well, that's quite interesting there. Now let's see what we got here on the comments because let's see. Tyler, do you have any? Okay, so that WA is going to be great. WrestleCon is going to be set for a new cough standard for crossovers. No doubt about that. Getting streamed this Saturday. And Drew Hood also says Lips is a whole different ball game. Well, in many ways, that's true. And Aaron says, rest in peace, Wicked J. Absolutely. Also, rest in peace to Balls Mahoney. That's definitely an ECW classic. But, man, it's hard because not to mention also Blackjack Mulligan has passed, Bray Wyatt's grandfather, also in one half an amazing tag team. Now, Tyler Storm, I'm going to ask you some questions real quick before we do the PWL.
Okay.
I want to get your input on what you have planned as far as Wicked Armageddon. Is there anything that that you have your sights on as far as not only Wicked Armageddon, but the nearby VTW future?
My main goal as of right now for VTW is to take down JHI, which I think I have the same goal as a lot of the VTW mainstays such as Zach, Aaron, Ecstatic, Avery, Drew Hood. The list goes on and on. It's to take down JHI and get back our VTW. But if I was going to do a specific goal for myself, of course, would be to get the YouTube title back. But I'm not necessarily going to focus on that too much. But the guy who now has the YouTube championship, Dustin Plague, I have a lot of stuff, upcoming with him. I can almost sense it. So the war between Tyler Storm and Dustin Plague isn't over by any means.
Yeah. And the one thing that's different about you and other people, and one thing I can appreciate, is you do have the wits. That's one thing I must say, and that's one thing I realized going into Best in the Yard, is that you're not a dumb guy. You're smart. And that's one thing I really think costed you guys at Fury, because there was one individual that it wasn't even the fact that he got his shoulders pinned down to the mat. And I got a little, the thing about Aaron Jones is that he got himself disqualified. And it's not that he intentionally did it. No, he was truly bleeding VTW's colors. It's just, was he just that stupid? Like, I just want to ask you, like, was he just that stupid to where he didn't realize the referee's count? Because if you're going to go in defending your territory, you got to not only come with this, and you can't only come with this, but you got to come with this. And if you're not going to come with this, you're going to make stupid mistakes that Aaron Jones just made at Fury. And not to mention what happened at Roulette. He goes in there with a busted arm and ends up losing to Diablo in a ladder match for the World's Heavyweight Championship of VTW. So as far as I'm concerned, now look, I feel bad for what happened to you guys. But if there's anybody that I got to put that responsibility on, it's Aaron Jones. You know why? With all due respect, he's a stupid idiot. You don't get yourself intentionally disqualified because of your own personal vendetta. Now, I know that's just what I'm saying. This is the CredeCast. I know I run when the plug gets pulled, but that's just my personal opinion. And an opinion, I must say, that matters. Now that I got that off my chest, what are your thoughts on the situation? Because maybe you'd have a different opinion than me.
Going into the Fury match, definitely, I was kind of on the same page with Zach Daniels, a lot more than I was with Aaron Jones. Ecstatic, me and Ecstatic had a lot of stuff in the past, that's went down between me and him. But, we seen that the place where we called home was in jeopardy. So, we had to come together. And me and Ecstatic have been together, ever since. And we haven't, parted ways from each other. So now I consider Ecstatic actually one of my best friends here in BTW. But the whole stuff, with Aaron Jones and his attitude going into the Fury match was, definitely not where it needed to be. It seemed like to me and Ecstatic and Zach Daniels that going into that match, he only cared about himself and taking out, his.
Damn right.
And so,
damn right, he only cared about himself.
And so, and what happened to, Aaron at Roulette was very unfortunate. Even though, me and Aaron have been, on bad terms going into, Roulette, I kind of wish, Aaron would have walked away with the title just to have the title back on VTW and not, taken over by JHI. Hell, even Kevin. I'd much rather have the belt on Kevin than have it on Diablo. But
now here's my situation with Roulette, and obviously you're saying that it was unfortunate that happened to Aaron Jones. You know what though? That's just a situation of you got what goes around comes around, and you got what's coming to you. If you want to get yourself intentionally disqualified because you personally want to do this for your own self and not for your colors and not for your team, that's going to happen to you, and you're going to get what's coming to you. And that was a beating by JHI, by Diablo, and there's just no other ways to it. Aaron Jones wants to call me out right now in the comments section and say he wants to make a video. You know what? I don't have to do that because I'm on a CredeCast with Tyler Storm. Okay? You think you're better than me? You're not, Aaron. I'm sorry. I know that the saga of the self-supremacy, I get it. But you know what? it still implies you don't matter. I'm on the CredeCast right now with Tyler Storm, a man that's beaten me at best in the yard. You're not even going to be facing me there, okay? Tyler, I do apologize. Sometimes, things get a little carried away on here. Now, Tyler, I got to go back to obviously Fury because it was to me a huge standout nonetheless for VTW. And whether people were rooting for Team VTW or rooting for Team JHI, it was one of the biggest revolutions in all of backyard wrestling. And I believe a big part of it was the fact that it was streamed because you see the comments just blowing up. What are your thoughts when you're looking at that and you just see just bang, 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 comments flying?
Well, I do think that, us having the ability to live stream, and thanks to the UWE management for teaching us how to do that. But definitely I'm blown away now, and I look forward to, looking at the comments during every, BTW live stream. Heck, even, whenever UWE live stream stuff, whenever I'm actually able to watch it, whenever I see like the comments pouring in, for a specific superstar or a specific angle that's going on, it blows my mind to see, that people actually care that much, sit through a 2-hour, 3-hour show. And, it's tremendous. And I once again, this might be getting off subject a little bit, but I never thought that, VTW would get this big. I mean, if you can even say that, like, never in my mind.
No, it definitely have. It's grown on many levels, and it's hosted events, whether it be interior or exterior, that have launched backyard wrestling on just another platform. Now, speaking of other platforms, this one is going to be held up instead of Claremont. This one's going to be held up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I'm going to give you a rundown of what's going down at WrestleCon, and I want to get your who you're rooting for, and also your predictions for the show as well. So let's start this off now. The first match I'm going to give you is, well, let's make this interesting. My match against Shavardicus Jackson. Boy, people are going to kill me because I do plug this show a lot, but you know what? I wait till best in the yard. It's going to still be the same way. Well, who you rooting for, and be smart about this, and who are you predicting?
This is actually one of the, top 3 matches I would say that I'm looking forward to. This is one of them. Only because Shavardicus Jackson has really grown on me here lately, and because Everett Creed, Creed is always going to, have a special place with me, only because first ever, like best in the yard match per se, So my prediction for this match is going to be that, it seems like Everett has, walked away with a lot of, and I mean a lot of momentum. So I'm going to have to go with Creed walking out, against Shavardicus Jackson. Because, I don't see how Shavar can, topple the self-supremacy. And that's just, coming from me as a person. But
yeah, I totally get that, and that is a smart pick, might I say. Next match here, which is another one that's a doozy, is this elimination. Now, this isn't I know I've been saying this a lot lately. This is not the updated match card because Drew Hood is no longer the VTW World Heavyweight Champion. Now that is Diablo's title, but nonetheless, it is an elimination tables match between Drew Hood, Thomas Gray, and Dirty DeChico. What are your thoughts?
Number one, it was unfortunate, Drew had to lose the VTW World Championship, and I don't even know if Drew, is going to be 100% for this match. I heard isn't it an elimination tables match?
It is.
Okay. Elimination tables match. Oh God. I see 2 guys that I've stepped in the ring with before. I see, Dirty Chico and Drew Hood. And, we mentioned Thomas Gray earlier. But if you want my honest prediction, it looks like Thomas Gray and Drew Hood, I'm sorry, but the gunslinger has to walk out of this one. Dirty DeChico is one guy. Whenever you put weapons in front of him, tables, ladders, chairs, whatever it may be. Whenever the gunslinger walks out of that stage, the shed, or, you know, in APW's case, the house, whenever he walks out, stuff's about ready to get real. So my prediction is going to be that Dirty DeChico walks out the victor of this matchup.
Very well. Dirty DeChico, honestly, my pick as well. And it's not only because he's, shares the same brand logo as I do, but the fact is that he just knows how to put on a beating like nobody else. I mean, I fought him at Thunderstruck, and I still have not been the same since that match. That was when the Wilma made its first appearance, and he still was victorious with a wasted splash. Next match on the event is none other than this one right here.
Ooh. This is another
Sinner, the Third Eye Theorist. Now, you've known Zach Daniels probably as long as I have known TJ Sakara. So you and Zach have been best of friends, bitter enemies. Myself and TJ Sakara have been best of friends and bitter enemies. Now, the only difference between you and Zach and myself and TJ is that you lost to Zach Daniels at VTW Mania, where I have defeated TJ Sakara at Broken Glory. So in that case, there's a lot of people that are still questioning if TJ Sakara is even going to show up at WrestleCon, much less face Zach Daniels. So what are your predictions on this one?
Well, I can say that, Zach Daniels is a person who, whenever he makes a promise, he delivers on it. So I have no doubt in my mind that Zach Daniels will be at WrestleCon. Now, as for TJ, I know this was supposed to be a marquee match at Best in the Yard. And this was actually a match that I was really looking forward to at Best in the Yard. But unfortunately, due to circumstances, TJ wasn't able to come. But now, if TJ can show up to WrestleCon, Zach may have to, reevaluate himself, because if TJ can show up at WrestleCon, TJ might take it. TJ might take this one, But now as for Zach Daniels, I'm kind of on the wall on this one. Zach Daniels is one of the masters of the mind games and stuff like that. And you've seen what he's done to Drew Hood in the past during their rivalry. And God knows what he can do to TJ Sakara after, TJ no-showed on him at Best in the Yard.
Yeah.
But my prediction, this is tough.
Yeah, this is a day, like you said, this is a tricky one. Maybe the trickiest one on the whole, on the whole stack.
You know what? I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say Zach Daniels walks away with the victory.
That's a good prediction in my eyes, because the thing is, if TJ Sakara, and I know TJ more than anybody else, and I know him better than anybody else, and this is my prediction on this. If TJ Sakara comes in this match with a clear head on his shoulder, and he comes into this match with a strategy, and he knows exactly how to pick apart Zach Daniels and knows what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the best prediction for me, if TJ Sakara knows what he's going to do to Zach Daniels will win this match. That is my prediction, because TJ Sakara is most dangerous when he doesn't know what he's going to do. If he doesn't know what he's going to do, that's when TJ Sakara is dangerous. That's why I've beaten TJ Sakara at Broken Glory, because I was facing the Third Eye Theorist. Now, the thing is, it's when he adds that body of bewilderment side to him. If he adds that to him, Zach's in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Next match. This one's quite interesting because you have the new Rebel and the old Law. I know Nick Myers is a force to be reckoned with, but I got Bullet on this one. What do you got?
A little bit about this match. Bullet here in the UWE has caught my eye in a very unique way. Just with his entrance, his act, his voice. Everything about the Black Bullet, just stands out in my eyes. But then you got Nick Myers, and I don't know if he's going to have Rich powers or Dick powers or whatever you want.
I've been informed by – I spoke with Bullet the other day, and I hear Nick Myers is going to have Rich Power. I call him Big Dick Powers now.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I've also talked to Bullet earlier this week. He plans to have Anonymous by ringside as well. So you're going to have Anonymous in Black Bullet's corner and possibly Big Dick Powers in Nick Myers' corner. And yes, that will play a huge factor in the match.
Definitely. Oh, this is now that you state that they're going to have their managers at ringside. This is a tough one. I might have to go with Nick Myers in this match for some reason because I've seen what Myers and Powers have done in APW. Just seeing them two together is just outstanding. Props to APW for putting them two together. It really makes me excited for more Nick Myers in the future and stuff tongue twister.
I feel it. My prediction on Nick Myers is Black Bullet may get the win on this, but I sense something really interesting with Nick Myers. Why would Nick Myers just suddenly leave the Eastern, the ESP? I have a feeling there may be a little bit of red in him, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know. It's just, he's suspicious to me. He's a little too, he walks around with too, he looks too innocent. That's the best way to put it. Next match on the card. Now, I don't exactly have the match card itself, but I have a very accurate picture of Corey Graves. So this is my, forgive him. He can tend to be a little bit nosy on situations. Now, who do you think is going to be the recipient of Corey Graves' open challenge? And who will be victorious? Will it be the recipient or will it be the APW champion?
I mean, with a lot of the open challenges and stuff in backyard wrestling, it can be literally anybody. But honestly, I could see. I could see myself going up to Altoona, Pennsylvania, and wrestling Corey. I could see, a bunch of the other VTW. I could see Ecstatic going up to Altoona, Pennsylvania to try to take out Corey from their stuff from Best in the Yard. Heck, somebody could pull double duty that night. It's totally up in the air, but I'm trying to think of somebody who could potentially come to APW and face him. But I'm gonna go out on a limb. And this may be one of the most random, predictions. What if we seen Corey Graves versus the King of the Mountain, Navon McDonald, at WrestleCon?
Oh boy, Navon McDonald would definitely be a twist. That would be very interesting, actually. As a matter of fact, one that I would like to see. That would be very different. Next match on the card, and it's funny that Big Time Mike just showed up, said hell of an episode of the CredeCast. Thank you very much, Big Time Mike. So I'm going to bring it on to this next match that is featuring Big Time Mike against Rick Rios. What are your thoughts and predictions and who you're rooting for in this situation?
This is in no offense to any other match at WrestleCon. This is the match that's going to have my eyes glued to that screen. Like as soon as this match was announced, I marked, like, my inner kid came out of me a little bit, because I know that Mike and Rick are going to kick each other's ass at WrestleCon. Now as far as predictions go, Big Time Mike has been on a roll. Rick Rios has been on a roll alongside with TJ in the Theory of Perfection. But if I was gonna have to go with somebody, I've stepped in the ring with him before. It would have to be Big Time Mike, because I know just how hard Mike hits, how hard Mike throws his punches, how hard he kicks, everything. And I don't think Rick can keep up with what Mike will have thrown his way.
I agree. The only way I could see Rick Rios finishing off Big Time Mike is that Rios rotation device, which is not the NATO. It is the move he used to defeat me at Ultimate Redemption, which is an advanced version of the maneuver. And if he could somehow execute that Rios rotation device on Big Time Mike, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. That will keep Mike down for much longer than 3 seconds. Otherwise, Big Time Mike has a huge possibility. Also, will TJ Sakara be present in this match as well? There is a lot to consider. A lot to consider.
Definitely.
So I'm definitely wondering how this is going to turn about. Next match on the card. This one has definitely caught my eye because not only because it's featuring the Freak Show Litz, but more so it's you're seeing him in a scenario where he's on the receiving end of the mind games, and Joe Cool, who is on top of the world, is deciding to sink down to even greater depths that I could possibly imagine. What do you think of this entire past few weeks between Joe Cool and Litz, of how he's targeted Litz through his sister Zelina?
Well, I've watched all of the all the hype videos towards this match, and it's just crazy with the links that Joe would go. I mean, Joe's a crazy dude. I mean, Joe has been I've stepped in the ring with Joe before, and Joe's a character, but he's kind of unserious at times. And I think that might be Joe's downfall. But now I go over to Lips. And I have to say, with Lips, I've stepped in the ring with Lips as well. And, Lips is the master of the mind games. And it's kind of hard to see, Lips going through like this emotional thing with, his sister and stuff like that. It's hard to see, Lips show emotion actually once in his life. But if you want my prediction for this match, it's going to be hard. But
who are you rooting for, and who do you predict?
Do you want my honest prediction? Honestly, I think JHI is going to show up on WrestleCon and take out Lips. That's just my honest prediction.
JHI as in Diablo and the whole the pack?
Yeah,
or just Joe Cool?
Joe Cool,
really?
Diablo, D-Lock, and Dustin Plague. I have a feeling they're going to make their presence known at WrestleCon unannounced, and they're just going to come out and help Joe take the win home.
Well, I will assure you that if JHI is present, that is all that is said and done for Lips. I agree with that 110%. I do have Joe Cool coming out victorious because I did some little work in this, and I spoke to Joe earlier this week, and he said that most of the times in these situations, the referee likes to let it go, but Joe is insisting that the referee is going to be enforceful in this match, and I could see possibly Lips getting himself disqualified because of how much animosity he has for Joe Cool. I think Joe has really gotten into Litz's head, and that is all of Litz's momentum and the source of his offensive repertoire out the window. So I'll say Joe Cool on this one. Last but not least, the main event for WrestleCon, which has caught a lot of people's eye, and that is Jason Walker versus Cameron Jackson.
All right. Well, I mean, I kind of have to be a little biased because I've had differences with one of these guys here recently at Christmas Chaos with Cameron Jackson. And then, I want something with Walker. So this is, me on a personal level. It's kind of like I'm looking at two enemies. But my prediction is going to be that, Cam has actually been playing all these mind games against Walker. And I honestly think that, I think, the mind games might have caught up to Walker a little bit, and that might be the way that the CJE takes the win home. And I think CJ, if I'm not mistaken, if CJE does win this match, he will be the first ever person to ever defeat Jason Walker outside of APW, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Okay. So my prediction for the main event of WrestleCon is that the CJE World Heavyweight Champion, the four-time CJE World Heavyweight Champion, Cameron Jackson, is going to walk away with his hand held high against Jason Walker.
There you go. Cameron Jackson defeating Jason Walker. That would be quite a scenario. Now, the only reason why I would say the contraire is because success can get inside the head of Cameron Jackson. And if the success gets to him, he's going to be. I have a feeling Cam might be taking Jason Walker a little too lightly. And that is something you don't want to do. So that is Jason Walker's the most of his momentum, and that's where I think Jason may pick up the victory. The reason why I could see Cam picking up the victory is because he is officially inside Jason Walker's head, where Jason's no longer concerned about the man in red. I don't even know if the man in red is still going on anymore. The main focus now on Jason Walker is, as he says it, the man in the black toed splash shirt. And like a dog pissing on a tree, he has marked his territory all around Jason Walker, and that may be Cam's source to victory. Oh, yes. So that's WrestleCon's predictions for you here, featuring UWE's Everett Creed and VTW's Tyler Storm. Now, Tyler, before we wrap things up for the night, I just want to get a couple of questions. Obviously, first off, what would you say, now being on the CredeCast, now that it's all said and done, your thoughts on Creed versus Storm at Best in the Yard, and how did you think that overall, that from the build with the key to Creed to the interview to your in gorilla position for the match, the backstage talk, the match itself, and the finish, everything about it? What's your opinion on the Creed versus Storm Best in the Yard saga?
Well, of course I loved it, and that's the most. I mean, even after I've faced Mike and everybody else, I think Creed versus Storm was my most hyped up crossover match ever. Like, I know I've had a bunch of crossover matches, but I think that match was the one that sticks out in my eye and will probably always be number one, because of that. That's I literally felt like I was at WrestleMania at Best in the Yard once me and you was standing across the ring from each other. And I mean, talking about the match, talking about how we're going to hype the match, what we're going to base it off of, me being the little rebel kid and, you being the law. I really think, it went over in a way that me and you both wanted it to go over. And I mean, there's not much I can really say about it other than, it was an awesome, and I mean awesome experience. It was surreal. The whole, 25, 30-minute match that we had, it was crazy. Some of the stuff that happened during the match I wasn't expecting. But me and you went in there, we kicked ass, and that's all I can really say about it. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. If the question was asked again tonight, in all of backyard wrestling, that match is in, like, ever since I started back in 2007 to 2016 now, that match against Everett Creed and Tyler Storm at Best in the Yard 2015 had to be in my top 3 matches of all time.
Absolutely. That to me was one of my favorite matches that I've ever done. Definitely my favorite match as far as being on the away team. I really enjoyed it. You were the first person that really, in my eyes, made me have to step up my game and, like, okay, let's give him the real Everett Creed. And even though I went out on that show on a loss, it's still, to me, it's like, they got a taste. And now that was my first realization of, I want to give them the self-supremacy now. I don't want to give them the CEO of the UWE. And I think you were the first person that got the real taste of that. So I really enjoyed the fact that that happened on Best in the Yard. And I can only, like I said, I can only wish the best for you as far as Wicked Armageddon, as far as Best in the Yard, and everything that comes up. My final question to you is, obviously Storm versus Creed was the ultimate at Best in the Yard. My question now is Best in the Yard 2. What are your ideas?
Well, I mean, for Best in the Yard 2, I've mentioned earlier in the podcast that the person who I'm trying to target is, Jason Walker. And of course, it's going to take a lot of convincing because, Jason Walker is a person in the community and a person, on screen and off screen that, a lot of people look up to, and a lot of people, that they have that, oh, I'm talking to, a higher authority, Jason Walker was one of the first guys whenever I got introduced to this community. He was one of the first people who I seen, like his wrestling. I've seen, his promos, I've seen him, and, he stood out a lot in my eyes, but, I'm not going to beg for it. I'm just going to prove it. And if I can prove it to you,
There you go.
if I can prove it to Walker that I'm worthy of a match with, in what a lot of people would say, a legend in backyard wrestling, then, I'm going to tell him to come down to Best in the Yard. The yard's open. There you go.
Yeah. Like I said, that would be quite an event to witness, no doubt about it. Tyler Storm versus Jason Walker. Whether, will it happen at Best in the Yard 2? We got to see, because it's a lot of persuasion to Jason Walker. But right now, obviously, he has his focus on Cameron Jackson. Now, when that's all said and done, will his mindset begin to turn? That's a good question. But as far as you are concerned, it looks like right now you got your mindset on one thing and one thing only, and that is taking back your momentum. And I think it's going to start with Dustin Plague, and then it may eventually come to JHI as a whole, and then perhaps Walker at Best in the Yard. Who knows? All I could say is you're one of those guys not to take lightly, because I've been on the receiving end of it, and Best in the Yard was my best performance, and you were still victorious. So, Jason Walker, Dustin Plague, JHI, watch out, because you're never going to hear me say this again, but the resistance is now before you. So, with that being said, guys, if there's any final, I'm just going to check if there's any final questions really quick. Certainly, this is Big Time Mike. Certainly a key moment in the career of TS, obviously referring to Best in the Yard versus Creed. Drew Hood says, and Ever Creed, no winner or loser there. Both guys benefited, absolutely. Tyler, any last thoughts that you have before we?
I mean, not really. I mean, I think we've covered about everything.
All right. Well, with that being said, I definitely want to thank you for coming on the CredeCast. It was a pleasure having you on.
Oh yeah.
Well, guys, the next time you're going to be seeing yours truly, the Self Supremacy, will be at WrestleCon, making an example of myself at the cost of Shavardicus Jackson. It will be an all-gold empire, and it will be my empire. Tyler, I want to thank you very much for coming on the CredeCast. We will see you at WrestleCon, and we will also see you at Hell's Vacancy and Wicked Armageddon. You're going to want to check it out, guys. It's going to be some awesome stuff coming up for 2016. The supremacy is now before you.